Cathy Carroll is a leadership coach for family businesses. She is a speaker. She is the author of Hug of War, How to Lead Family Business with Love and Logic. Welcome to the show, Cathy.
Thank you, George. Pleased to be here.
Excited to have you on. Tell us a little about your personal life, more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Personal life, I grew up in the Chicagoland area. I currently live in San Antonio, Texas with my husband and my stepson, who's just about to start at LSU. Go Tigers
All right.
in the fall. My work, as you said, I'm a leadership coach. I specialize in family business leadership. And why I do what I do is a little bit of a longer story, but I'll make it quick. I grew up in a family business. My grandfather was the entrepreneur in our family. And when I was a kid, all I saw, frankly, was drama in my father's generation. So the thought of joining the family business held very little appeal. I went corporate for 20 years. I was a pension actuary, got an MBA, then joined the travel industry. And in 2009, my father, it's like a Godfather story, he sucked me back into the family business. And I left the corporate world to run my father's rodeo equipment manufacturing business.
Nice.
Yeah, I have to say that slowly because a lot of people say, wait, what? Yeah, we make rodeo ropes and saddles and training equipment for team ropers, which is actually a different business from my grandfather's business. But boy, I have a perspective as a third generation family member and as a second generation family member. And that was an incredibly rewarding and enormously challenging leadership experience working for my father. After 3 years, and I'm happy to say, a successful turnaround of the business, I left and I found a real deep passion for wanting to support other family business leaders in the incredibly unique and complex challenges of leadership in a family business.
I appreciate that. So, how does one become a pension actuary?
Well, you have to really like math. I was a math major in college, and I was pretty good at it. And so when I graduated from school, I was a French major as well. When I graduated, I thought, I'll probably be able to earn more if I leverage the math than if I
Mm,
leverage French. And at the time, actuaries were one of the best jobs, like high pay and low stress. And I thought, that sounds good. So I did it and actually had a blast. I love actuaries. They're hilarious, entertaining, witty humans in general, overall. Compared to all the other experiences I had more fun working with actuaries than anyone else.
how funny. So that's high pay, low stress, and then sometimes family business is the opposite of that.
Well said. Very well said. Although that the pay, in my experience, pay in a family business falls into two buckets, either overpay or underpay.
Hmm.
Very few family businesses pay sort of the Goldilocks market wage. But yeah, well said, and a lot of stress for sure.
So, love and logic. I am a parent to three children, and I've got all sorts of love and logic books. It's not dissimilar, I imagine, dealing with family business than dealing with children.
I would agree, actually. And what's so interesting is how we bring all of our childhood stories into the workplace every single day, and they're as alive in our bodies as they were when the stories took place, for good and not so much for good. But what I also love about what you highlighted is how one of the core polarities, and I'm going to use that word polarity intentionally, and I can describe it in a second, but people will understand it when I talk about it. That is. Uh, the parenting choice between strict and nurturing, right? Like it's a constant struggle as a parent. When something happens with a child, do you lean in and draw a strict boundary? Do you lean in and draw a supportive approach? And either one in its extreme can cause problems. If a parent's only strict, can cause real problems for the child in their development. If the parent's only nurturing, can cause real problems in the development of the child. So that is my first introduction to the concept of polarities, which is really the dominant theme of Hug of War. It's all these opposing opposites that feel like either or question, should I be strict or should I be nurturing? But in reality, you need both strict and nurturing. You need to challenge and support children and employees as they grow. So long segue, but thank you for that transition.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, that right there is the problem is it's really hard to thread that needle while running a successful business and being a parent or a son or a daughter or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. You said it well. It is a challenge. And it's what I am excited about sharing with the world is the innovative way to address these opposing opposites. When you're making a decision as a leader, and this is one that will resonate with you with your financial advisory background. A lot of parents who are managing, who have built substantial wealth in a family business, they start working on their estate plan. And the big question that they get stuck with is, should I reveal my estate plan to my children, or should I conceal it
Hmm.
from my children? And estate planners really struggle with that question because there's no right answer to the question. There's value in revealing the estate plan. It actually supports the growth and maturity of the child. And there's value in concealing the estate plan because it can be really overwhelming to know that you're going to be inheriting a substantial sum of money at a young age. So what polarity thinking does is it highlights what are the benefits of revealing, what are the benefits of concealing, and then how can you do both over time in a way that's really supportive of the child and their development. So you may choose to reveal a little bit early and then more later, for example, as a way to manage the tension between these two opposites instead of, I'm going to choose one or the other. Right? That's the easy answer. I'll choose one or the other. But it's actually ineffective because you need both, and it's a changing answer over time.
Nuance.
Yeah. Have you experienced that? I mean, in your financial advisory services, do people come to you with questions like that?
I think that it's very it's obviously very human nature of us to want to think and operate on that polarity that you're talking about, or those polarities. And I love everything about it. And I don't know why I haven't necessarily thought of it like that. To reveal or to conceal, to lead with love or to lead with logic. And it's just obvious that the answer is it's not one or the other. It's both. But really, is that why is that so hard for us?
I love that question because I don't know, but I have a theory. So my theory is this. I think as humans, we have the ability to hold up to three things in our head. Like when I go to the grocery store, I can remember three things. If there are more than three, I have to write it down. Like I
Yeah.
need a list, right? And so when you're managing a polarity, you've actually got four things to hold in your head at the same time. You've got the upsides of one pole. Like let's go back to estate planning. And I'm trying to decide how to pass my business to my children. And I have three children. And I've got two who are working in the business and one who's not. Do I give all three of them equal shares, a third, a third, a third, or do I do it differently? So it's a tension between same and different. All right. So now with these two poles, same and different, there are upsides of doing things the same, and then there are some problems when you do things the same. Similarly, if you do things differently, there are some great upsides to doing things differently, and there are some challenges with doing things differently. Those are four different buckets that you have to hold in your head at the same time that make the polarity management just a little extra complex, just a teeny bit more
Hmm.
complex. Our brains are wired to do. Plus, I also think that the training, the education, the way we live in the world is sort of reinforces this either or way of seeing the world. It's either this or that. It's either that or this. And it changes, it requires a really innovative way of thinking to think in the terms of both and. So when you start to hear questions, either this or this, I start to say, well, wait, is it truly an either or question? Or do we have the ability to get the best of both? And that's what polarity thinking introduces.
Yeah. Tension between same and different, reveal or conceal. These are wonderful thought exercises. And then when the rubber meets the road, it's not a thought exercise. This is my business and it's my kids, and I don't want to screw this up, or I don't want to screw it up anymore, rather.
Mhm.
So how does one engage and start this process, if that's the right term?
Yeah. Well, it actually, I think, starts with having the brave conversations. And what I have noticed in many of the family businesses I work with is that so many family businesses are conflict avoidant. They don't actually talk about the real stuff because The rules of the family are that you're supposed to be in harmony, you're supposed to be happy. This is your place of love, right? This is where things are about fairness and sharing and unconditional belonging, right? So
Yeah.
we don't want to disrupt all that yummy, warm feeling of family, right? But business has a different set of rules. Business is about logic. Business is about competition and profits and meritocracy. And you need to have those really hard conversations in the business world in order to get the best outcomes. But so many of us conflate task conflict, which is really important and robust and healthy, with relationship conflict, which is emotional and destructive to actually good decision making. And so in Hug of War, I talk about the distinction between task conflict and relationship conflict. And I'll credit Adam Grant from the book Think Again for helping me see it in this way. But then on top of that, there's a third form of conflict, which is this polarity conflict. And I'll pick another polarity to give an example. Um, let's pick include and exclude for in-laws. So the big challenge is you've married someone. Do you include them in ownership? Do you include them in the family meetings or do you exclude them? Again, an either or question, and I would argue the wrong question. But here's what happens. You end up with some members of the family adamantly supporting include, and they talk about all the benefits of including and the overuses of excluding. And then you've got other members of the family who talk about all the benefits of excluding and all the overuses of including. And what they do is, if you think about that on a map, they argue the diagonals. Like you imagine a big X on the screen, you're arguing the diagonals. It's the same argument that Congress has with liberal and conservative. The liberals argue the upside of liberal ideology and the overuse of conservative. Conservatives argue the upside of conservative, the overuse of liberal, and you get force against force, and welcome to gridlock. So, in a polarity in a family business, it's that same concept when you are just arguing the upsides of your preferred pole and then the overuses of the opposite against the corresponding point of view, you go nowhere. You just end up with gridlock and you end up with these impossible situations that become very fraught, very emotional. And the best way forward is to use this polarity thinking in order to find a path forward.
And as all that's happening, we still have those, as you said earlier, those stories alive in our bodies from when I was a kid
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes. And that's what makes so much of the family business enormously challenging. The experiences that we have in childhood, the both positive and negative, live in our bodies as if they are happening in this moment. And so when there's unresolved childhood issues, it can really undermine the dynamic for healthy communication in our adult business relationships, which from my perspective, makes leadership in a family business double black diamond hard, right? Because when you're working at another company, let's pick any public company, we've got our childhood stuff, but it's not getting triggered in the same way that it is getting triggered in the family business.
And so when we're sitting down and we're trying to make a decision about all this stuff, I bet it's easy to fall in the trap or to utilize what does a successful transition look like and what does a failed transition look like? And I want a successful one, but it's going to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I love that question, George, because how do you define success? How do you define failure? Like just having the family conversation around the definition of those two words can be incredibly powerful to helping guide the family towards what it is that they choose to seek and what it is that they are trying to avoid. But so many families just say, yes, we're going to have a successful transition without a mutual understanding of what success looks like, without considering not just the logic needs, but also the love needs, not considering the desire. Here's another polarity that's so prevalent in family business. It's this desire to be independent. And in a family business, we are also interdependent in the sense that any decision I make in my family business, well, not any, but most decisions I make in my family business have an impact on the other members of the family because we're a system, right? So you've got this tension between independent and interdependent. All right, now I'm getting kind of wonky and down a rabbit hole, but you get the idea. Like there are so many tensions between these two right answers in a family business that make it particularly challenging.
No, certainly. It's fascinating. Um, I'm an entrepreneur, but what I want to have gone into my family business, which is an entrepreneurial venture, the answer is probably would have been no. I would have just wanted to do my own thing, regardless of whether or not my family's business was wildly successful. So it makes sense to me. It makes perfect sense to me that my ideas of success and how the family business is uh, wound down or sold or whatever is going to be different than perhaps if my brother is going to be the CEO.
Yeah, yeah. One of the chapters that I have in the book, I call it responsibilities and privileges. And so often we think of family business leaders the way TV depicts them, like the show Succession on HBO. And you see a bunch of really entitled inheritors, right, who behave
Mhm.
in obnoxious ways. But in my experience, that to me is the overuse of privilege, right? In my experience, family business leaders often suffer in the overuse of responsibility because it's a heavy responsibility to carry the burdens of leadership in a family business because you're not just doing it for yourself and your own nuclear family, but your broader extended family as well. And that creates so much pressure and angst and anguish in leaders. And a lot of inheritors or people who take over their family business, in many cases do it because they think they're supposed to. They've been told since they were kids that this business is going to be yours one day without actually considering, do I actually want, is this the path for me? Is this the right thing that I want to do? Do I want to do what my parents have asked me to do, or do I want to carve my own path? That tension is really hard. And it's so misunderstood because we don't talk about it. It's like it's a tension that happens over a long period of time, right? But I think that tension between responsibilities and privileges is really acute in the family business space.
Yeah, I like that one especially. I've loved all the polarities that you've shared, but certainly that one. And I mean, heavy is the head that wears the crown. If it's one sibling that's running this business and the other siblings are benefiting from it, well, my goodness, what a incredible amount of pressure that is. And
Yeah.
good luck threading that needle.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of resentment on both sides of that equation, right? Those who have carried the crown of leadership and those who don't.
Yeah, so many different things. Um, I think I would. I'm really excited to read the book. Number one, I think I would be really. I think I would have been really excited to write it. How was it?
Oh my, it was 10 years in the making.
Wow.
So it took a long time. Yeah, I started by interviewing 70 different family business leaders and bundling the themes. And then I had periods of energy and lack of energy. And I don't know if you've ever written a book, but there's a lot of self-doubt that can go into writing a book. And when I started to suffer from self-doubt, I would lose passion for writing. And then I would find some sort of excitement about writing and I would regain the energy and then it would wane and then it would wax. So yeah, it's been a 10 years in the making, but I'm actually glad that it took that amount of time because I don't think I could have written the book that I wrote 10 years ago. I think
Hmm.
I needed my life experience to unfold. I needed a perspective to really form over a period of time. And I needed more client stories to draw from. The book is filled with stories. It's very, very story driven. And I included a lot of client stories, obviously anonymized and with their permission. But these are all true stories. There's a lot of reality. The feedback that I'm getting on the book is that it intuitively resonates with people because they can tell that the stories are raw and authentic. And frankly, there aren't books written about the blocking and tackling of leadership in a family business. There's a lot on succession best practices and governance best practices, and they're great. But nobody's talking about the day-to-day leader challenges. And this is the first, hopefully, the first of many books about that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you and where can they get their copy of Hug of War?
You can learn more about me at my website, which is legacyonward.com. And you can learn more about Hug of War at legacyonward.com/hug-of-war. It's available online at any bookstore.
Excellent. If you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Kathy your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to legacyonward.com and get to know a little bit more about Kathy and to see how you can work together and pick up your copy of Hug of War at legacyonward.com/hug dash of dash
Yeah,
war.com or wherever you buy your books. Thanks again, Kathy.
thank you.
Till next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.